I find what her comments to be absolutely disgraceful and unbefitting of a member of Congress, and I think that it's a good thing that the president is calling her out for those comments, and the big question is, why aren't Democrats doing it as well?
So that's Sarah Huckabee Sanders, press secretary for President Trump, talking over the weekend about Trump's tweet criticizing Ilhan Omar. Now, all he did in the tweet that he said was, "We will never forget." And then he played a video that had Ilhan Omar's comments that seemed to kind of downplay the 9/11 attacks with images of the 9/11 attacks. Now, here's the audio from that video. This is all that he put out there. Here it is.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something.
You have no idea right now.
There's another one. Another plane just hit.
Some people did something.
Oh, my goodness. There is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon.
Some people did something.
It just flew straight into it.
So that was pretty much it. All the criticism really was the fact that Ilhan Omar's comments was downplaying, basically just downplaying what the 9/11 attacks were. And the Democrats went in a very interesting direction. In fact, it's a very dangerous direction when you think about it. They started saying stuff like, well, let's listen to Beto O'Rourke, running for president out of Texas. This is what he said about it.
This is an incitement to violence against Congresswoman Omar, against our fellow Americans who happen to be Muslim.
So he's saying that this was an incitement to violence, a criticism of another congresswoman over comments that even the Democrats are having a hard time defending. That's another thing that's really interesting about all this. Is the Democrats are trying to kind of walk a line with this. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. They're trying to criticize Trump, saying he's racist and inciting violence, while at the same time saying, well, we don't defend her comments. No, we can't defend her comments. She was downplaying it. It was really insensitive. So it's like, wait, what? So Trump criticizes her, and immediately they're saying it's an incitement to violence. Now, Beto O'Rourke wasn't the only one who said that. Lots of other people said that. Rashida Tlaib, obviously one of them. Elizabeth Warren actually tweeted out the same thing. Said the president is inciting violence against a sitting congresswoman and an entire group of Americans based on their religion. Now, nowhere in that tweet, I played you the whole thing, does he even mention her religion? Does he ever say that we should have violence against her? None of those things. Now, I understand she's getting some death threats, but I can imagine that President Trump gets way more death threats on a daily basis. Or Vice President Mike Pence, or a lot of conservative talk show hosts like Rush Limbaugh or something get death threats all the time. Death threats are wrong. It's wrong to hear anyone get any kind of death threat. But the fact is, if we get to a point in this country where we can't criticize someone else without them saying, your speech is violence. That's what goes on college campuses, by the way, because what they do is they'll protest and they'll try to have violence or vandalism against the speaker. And they'll say, well, that speaker's speech is violence. So that gives me a reason to fight back with violence. You see where this leads? This is not a good place in our country where you're merely criticizing someone else, a public figure, a member of Congress, who even Democrats say, whoa, this is insensitive. She can't say this. And all of a sudden you're inciting violence. This is an attempt to silence speech. That's what it is. Does anyone agree with me? 407-916-5400. You can text to 23680 or standard message and data rates apply. We're going to get to your calls and texts next. Melissa's going to give her take as well. And another Democrat plays a different card. We'll play that. We have Orlando's news, weather, and traffic also in 2 minutes. This is Good Morning Orlando. So we have some great calls and texts coming in, but I want to read the tweet from the person who really made Ilhan Omar's comments go viral, and that's Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He responded to all this criticism by the Democrats, saying that Trump is inciting violence because he put out a tweet on just basically posting Ilhan Omar's own comments in relation to the images of 9/11. Now, obviously, Trump's point was we shouldn't downplay what happened on 9/11 because it was such a horrible event.
Some people did some things.
Yeah.
Some people did.
That was his point.
And then, it's funny, I'm reading about this, Michael. I was just checking out Newsweek, and they said her words were out of context. Well, they really weren't. Some people did something, and that all of us, and...
Well,
they really weren't.
And some of what she said was factually incorrect. CARE was not founded after 9/11.
No, it was founded in 1994.
Yeah.
And, it did grow in prominence after 2000, after 9/11 in 2001.
Yeah, but it wasn't started.
No.
By the way, I wanted to read this tweet from Dan Crenshaw reacting to everything over the weekend about this. Said, just so we are clear on basic notions of reality, when someone calls out a public official for things they said, it's not endangering their life or inciting violence. Claiming otherwise is just an attempt to silence your critics. I agree with him.
Oh, that's,
A voice of reason there. Because that's all Trump did. If we get to a point where you can't criticize someone without them saying, oh, I'm triggered and that's violence and you have to be silenced and take them off Twitter. That was another thing, right, Melissa?
Yes, there's a women's march out there that's a women-led right advocacy group, and they're like, Twitter, suspend its account. Free speech is not important. No, they didn't say that. They forgot that free speech is one of our rights.
Right. Now, read some of the text. We have some actually really good text messages. One I want to read real quick that I really like says, what the heck, these liberal Muslims can say President Trump isn't human, which Ilhan Omar pretty much said that. There's audio of that saying Trump's not even human, and he makes one tweet and they're a bunch of crybabies. So There you go. What other text do we have?
Michael, I believe you're absolutely right. As these liberal professors from these liberal universities that are teaching our young kids this kind of stuff, they're teaching snowflake agenda. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Another person says the president had every right to post that tweet. And this tragic event was a moment in American history where we will remember exactly where we were standing when those planes hit those buildings and killed so many innocent Americans. Congresswoman Omar and the Democrats need to get a grip on reality and remember that they represent the American people.
Now, one thing I'll point out again is a lot of Democrats were really uncomfortable with her comments as well. They had a hard time walking this line of criticizing Trump, but also criticizing Omar. Now, I talked about how a lot of them were saying Trump is inciting violence. But there was another card being played, and it was played by someone who was very close to being the governor of Florida. Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, who is now a CNN contributor, this is what he said about it.
I find the president's comments to be deplorable, and I think really beneath the office of the presidency. And obviously, Ilhan has become a little bit of an easy target for this White House, for this administration. But I think his attack is beyond Congresswoman Omar. This is about the fact that she looks a certain way. She is a woman of color. She happens to be of a Muslim faith. The president is setting, in my opinion, the groundwork for the kind of campaign he wants to run, which is to turn Americans against Americans, to turn brown and black people against his base. I find it extremely overreaching in many regards, and I think he underestimates his supporters out there, because I think there are a lot of people who find this extremely deplorable, especially those who remember well the heartache that many of us experienced watching those towers come down.
All right, so leave it to Andrew Gillum to play the race card. He likes to do that all the time, and once again, he is using that here as well. Yes, and this is Yaffe filling in for Bud. Bud will be back tomorrow. By the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at PMOWFLA, that's at PMOWFLA. Call it that because I have my own show every weekday, 5 to 6 p.m. right here on WFLA, PM Orlando. It's It's our show. We get a lot of news and information and analysis in 1 hour, so you should listen to it every day. And, of course, if you miss it, catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available and on your iHeart Radio app. So over the weekend on Saturday, I got the privilege of going to what I've never been to one of these events, but it was really a great event. It's been going on for a number of years now. It's called the Better Man event. Now, only men can go. Only men get tickets. There were some women in there, reporters and stuff, but only men can get tickets. And had 7,500 men in that stadium. It was practically sold out. And it was a really good event. It's a faith-based event. They had Evander Holyfield was there, David Green, Jonathan Cain from Journey, Reverend Anthony B. Thompson, who was the pastor of the church where Dylan Roof killed those people. And he gave a sermon that was amazing. It was really good, really great event. And the theme of this event can really be boiled down to one word, and that's forgiveness. And I thought that was really nice because if there's anything this world needs today, at least our country, it's that one thing, forgiveness. Now, one of the speakers I'm going to play for right now, I have some audio from this. It's Evander Holyfield, big-time world heavyweight boxer. His most notable match, and he admits this, was the match with, of course, Mike Tyson, where Mike Tyson bit off his part of his ear, basically, bit him in the ear twice. When I still think about it, it's just one of the craziest things to think about. Now, Evander Holyfield was there, and he was basically asked, what was your first thought when Mike Tyson did that to you? What first went through your mind? This is what he said.
Bite it back, actually, that's the first thing that, in our neighborhood, if anybody did anything to us, was do it back and do it harder. And that's how I felt.
So you actually, for a moment, literally considered biting him, or you thought, I got to do something to get him back?
Well, I was going to bite him.
So he was asked, what went through your head at that moment? And he said, bite him back. That was originally his thought, that's what you do. If he's going to bite you.
It's a golden rule, man. Do unto others as they do unto you.
You're going to bite. I think you're misinterpreting that golden rule.
Well, I didn't get to go to the men's thing.
No, you're not allowed.
Thanks.
No. But it was, he said, my first thought was to bite him back. And he was serious. He wanted to bite him back, which I don't blame him for. If you saw what happened, it's almost hard to blame him. But then he was asked, and he talked about what went through his mind as the match went on and right after the match. This is what he said.
And all of a sudden, then, when the fight was over, and I'm talking to God in the ring, saying, what is this all about? And he tell me, forgiveness. And I'm like, did you not see? And he bit me twice. And the fact is that when he allowed me to know something good that happened. He said, you've been fighting for 12 years. You've been fighting 3 rounds for how many years? 12. When I was an amateur boxer, I fought for free. For 12 years, didn't get nothing. He said, this day, because you don't bite him back, you'll get $35 million. And I realized,
So basically what he said there is God told him, he's like, God, what is this all about? And God said, forgiveness. And he's like, did you just not see what this guy did to me? Forgiveness. And then he basically made the point that he wins in the long run because he won $35 million because he was bit by the other person. But I thought that was an amazing story, that in that kind of situation, where usually people would want to respond in hatred and anger for the rest of their lives on something like that. He said at that moment, no, forgiveness. God's got me. And he has been able to forgive him. And they have had a cordial relationship since then. Thought that was an amazing message. Now, in the next segment, I want to play, because there was actually some news that kind of broke during the event. Mackenzie Milton had a surprise guest there with him. So I was talking about the fact that I went to the Better Man event on Saturday, and I played some cuts from Evander Holyfield, who was there, and he was talking about how he was able to forgive Mike Tyson for basically biting part of his ear off during that unbelievable match, which still, when you watch highlights, it's just almost unbelievable that was actually a thing that happened. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to play some other cuts here from UCF quarterback Mackenzie Milton, who was there. Now, we all know that Mackenzie Milton was badly injured, had a bad knee injury he's still recovering from. He says he's going to play again. But at this event, some news actually broke, because the person who injured his knee, that USF player, Mazzy Wilkins, was at the event. He came to the event, and that was the first time they had ever met in person. Now, I did not realize all this, but according to Mazzy and Mackenzie, Mazzy was getting death threats and other things on social media after that injury. And so Mackenzie Milton reached out to him on Instagram and said, look, there's no ill will here. I don't blame you for this injury. We're just playing football. So they've become kind of friends. They hadn't met in person. And at this event on Saturday, it was the first time they had met in person. And after the event, they did a little press conference, and they were asked, how does this make you feel? What's going on here? This is what Milton said.
Yeah, I mean, like I said out there, we're warriors out there, and excuse my language, but it's some BS, like what our fans were doing, or just people just, giving death threats, talking about his family. I mean, it's football. Like, injuries happen. So, like I said, there's no ill will there. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed in just people that, and I'm sure it's not a lot of our fans doing that stuff. It's just, all it takes is a select few, a few hundred, a few thousand, you know what I mean, to give UCF a bad rap, and that's not what we're about. We're not about that. And, like this, like Matt said, it's coming full circle, and like I said, there's no ill will there, and, our fans shouldn't have any ill will towards Mazzy either.
All right, so he basically pointed out, there's no ill will. There was no reason to go after Mazzy like that. It's part of football. Now, another thing I asked Milton when I was there, I asked him, how did your faith help you get through all of this? This is what he said.
I mean, for me, just going through the injury, it's been something I lay my hat on. And then people that doubt that say, oh, he'll never be the same, he'll never come back. I mean, that's just talking, it's just motivation, And honestly, I deleted Twitter after my freshman year just because, I was getting some hate from our own fans, actually. And like I said, it wasn't a lot of them, but it's just social media can be good and bad. And I think all it takes is one person to get behind a camera and, they can hide their face and just talk bad about people. But, I know what my identity in Christ is, and that's what I lean my hat on, and that's how it's been before I got hurt too.
So that was a UCF star quarterback Mackenzie Milton, still recovering from that injury. He was at the Better Man event, and Mazzy Wilkins, the person who injured him, was there. And now they are good friends. And it seems like Milton, I really like him. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I think he's going to come back and have a bright future with UCF and hopefully the NFL.
You guys are like bros now, because he was on PM Orlando a few weeks ago.
They're all up tight.
And now you're hanging out at the Better Man event.
Yeah, no, we're like best friends now. Actually, I doubt he even remembers my face.
The president likes the idea, and Democrats have said they want these individuals into their communities. So let's see if it works and everybody gets a win out of it. Again, this is not the ideal situation. The ideal solution is real simple. It's for Congress, particularly Democrats in Congress, to sit down with the president, do their jobs, and help us stop this awful crisis that's taking place at our border.
All right, so 2 points that Sarah Sanders, press secretary, made there that are very interesting. One, she says, this is an idea that we have these migrants coming in. We need somewhere to put them. Why not send them to sanctuary cities? After all, those sanctuary cities say, basically, they want them.
What a great idea.
So what's the issue? Even Rahm Emanuel, he was on ABC this week, over the weekend, he was saying, Chicago is a sanctuary city, and he basically said, we'll welcome them. But a lot of the Democrats out there are not so open to that for some strange reason, which I don't understand. They're kind of saying, well, Trump's using them as pawns. But it's like, shouldn't your approach be, since you usually support these policies, to just say, okay, we'll welcome them? If you support open borders, you should be all on board for this. This will prove Trump wrong about immigration. But they're not doing that, which is really interesting. Now, the second point there that Sarah Sanders said is that, well, this isn't really the ideal option. This is just something to do now, a place to put them. The ideal scenario would be to change the asylum laws and to secure the border and to build a wall. But the Democrats are not letting him do that, so he came out with this idea. Now, President Trump actually commented on this himself on Friday, and this is what he said.
We could fix that in so fast if the Democrats would agree. But if they don't agree, we might as well do what they always say they want. We'll bring the illegal, really you call them the illegals. I call them the illegals. They came across the border illegally. We'll bring them to sanctuary city areas and let that particular area take care of it. California certainly is always saying, oh, we want more people, and they want more people in their sanctuary cities. Well, we'll give them more people. We can give them a lot. We can give them an unlimited supply. And let's see if they're so happy. They say we have open arms. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms. The alternative is to change the laws, and we can do it very, very quickly, very easily.
So here's the question I have for you, and I want you to call and text. Do you support this policy? Do you think we should enact it right now? Do you understand why the Democrats don't support this policy? 407-916-5400. You can text it 23680 where standard message and data rates apply. Now, that being said, I don't think this is ever going to happen. It seems like he's not on firm legal ground. But the opposite of that, I don't think the goal here is to actually do this policy. I think the goal here is to show the hypocrisy of the Democrats, who right now are basically supporting an open border policy. Some of them are saying, well, we should let them in and put ankle bracelets on them. If we start doing that, you're going to have even thousands of more people trying to get to our border. There's not going to be enough ankle bracelets to go around, and they'll be wearing them for 2 or 3 years. Sometimes that's as long as it takes to see an immigration judge.
Wouldn't you see this as like an olive branch to the Democrats? Like Trump saying, hey, I get it. Let's go ahead and give this a test.
You would think that the mayors of these sanctuary cities or the governors of states like California would say the response would be, oh, okay, yes, because we support those policies. But they haven't been, which is interesting. Now, there is one problem with this, though. It kind of legitimizes illegals when you think about it. Because the fact is, if we start sending them to sanctuary cities, there are going to be a lot more illegal immigrants that are going to want to come into this country because they know they'll just be sent to sanctuary cities where they'll be able to live here. So in a way, it kind of would backfire on Trump's overall policy. But like I said, I don't think the goal of this is to really actually do the policy to actually do this. The goal is to to highlight the crisis on the border, but also to show the hypocrisy of the Democrats.
No, there's hypocrisy.
That being said, a lot of people support it. What do you think? 407-916-5400. 916-5400. You can text to 23680 where standard message and data rates apply. We'll get Melissa's take, calls, texts, and our own Senator Rick Scott weighed in on this. So we're getting calls and texts in on Trump's big immigration idea. It says if we're not going to secure the border, we're not going to change the laws, why don't we send the migrants to cities, sanctuary cities, that are friendly to them in the first place? Believe it or not, a lot of Democrats are opposed to that idea. Let's take some calls on this. Let's go to, let's go to line one. Colleen in Orlando. Colleen, what's your take on this?
Okay, my take is let's call out the hypocrisy of the left. Let's send them to the sanctuary cities and see how fast the left squeal.
So you think if we do that, even if they were friendly to it, if we do that, they would eventually change their mind because of the ramifications of that?
Absolutely. It's the typical liberal response, typical hypocrisy.
All right. Appreciate your call on that. Now we have someone with a different point of view on this.
Wait, an opposing viewpoint? No.
That's not allowed. Come on. How'd this call get through? Mark in Orlando, good morning.
Hi. How you doing, yeah?
Good. Welcome to the show. What do you think about this?
Well, there are a couple of things. One thing is that putting these people in the sanctuary city is going to make it harder to be identified and found and deported when it is time. That's the idea of the sanctuary city. But the underlying and also transporting people is problematic because you take on liability when you do that. The problem can be more handily done through the courts, and Trump really has the mechanism to do a lot of this. Right now, people seeking asylum, it's fewer than 1 in 5 that actually are granted asylum.
Right.
Much fewer.
But they don't see a judge until 2 years usually.
So this is the problem you have. You're right. You have to separate the families or catch and release because you can't keep the kids for more than 20 days. So you need to have more judges, and Trump doesn't want to do. He wants to have less judges, but if you have more judges.
Well, there were some comments over the weekend that he said he wanted to get rid of judges. Not sure he was talking about immigration judges because his proposal at the beginning of the year was to add more judges. That was part of it.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I think that if you have enough immigration judges, a whole lot of them, so that they can process, and I think you can negotiate over the 20 days by, they could even say, we give you more judges, you give us a little more in 20 days, give us a month or 2 months. But you negotiate that stuff, so you have enough judges to process the people, and then 80% of them can legally be sent back, and then they'll have to be, caught and released.
Well,
and
Mark,
maybe fewer than 20% that you're letting in. But in any event, it's done legally, and it's done the way the process is supposed to work.
Mark, that's actually a good point. It's a point I've brought up before, but Trump cannot do that on his own. He has to get approval by Congress. Congress has to work with him on that if he wants more judges. It's not something he can do unilaterally. Now, we have a lot of different texters coming in. Melissa, what do we got?
Wow, there's a whole bunch. One person has got Democrats would not agree with sending illegals to sanctuary cities because it was not their idea.
Okay.
Another person chimed in and said, can I pay for their bus tickets? Let's see. Let the horde descend upon them. And border, what would Israel do? Okay, that's...
Speaking of bus tickets, who is going to pay to move these people around?
Well, I guess it would be the same money that it takes to
process
them and all of that stuff. But it would be the taxpayers. That's a good point. Like I said, I don't really think Trump's actually going to do this. The fact is, none of these things actually solve the problem. As Senator Rick Scott over the weekend, our own Florida senator, pointed this out. This is what he said.
I've been up there. I've been in the Senate for 90 days. We're not securing our border. We're not enforcing our laws. Sanctuary cities are illegal. You heard Congressman Nadler say contempt for the law. That's clearly contempt for the law. You don't get to pick and choose what laws you do and what laws you comply with. You and I don't get to. Cities don't get to. What I don't get is why don't we try to solve the problem? We don't want illegal immigration. We don't want people coming illegal across our border. We want legal immigration. I'm from a state that we love immigrants, but we want legal immigration. So it's frustrating to me we're not getting anything done.
So Rick Scott actually saying, why don't we solve the problem? In Washington, D.C., solving problems? No.
As he pointed out, he's only been there 90 days.
Yeah, he's learning real quick.
There is a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sanctuary city thing wouldn't actually solve Trump's problem, but like I said, that's not why he's doing this.
True.
He's doing this to make a point. That's why he's putting this out there.
Do you want to get this last text in here? Remember, Obama did it with the big bus loads full of people going to very specific cities. So quickly we forget.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of the unaccompanied minors that were coming in under Obama, he did bus them to different cities.
Not our Obama.
Not quite the same thing, but yes, he did use buses and actually bus them to different cities.
The president likes the idea, and Democrats have said they want these individuals into their communities. So let's see if it works and everybody gets a win out of it. Again, this is not the ideal situation. The ideal solution is real simple. It's for Congress, particularly Democrats in Congress, to sit down with the president, do their jobs, and help us stop this awful crisis that's taking place at our border.
So Sarah Sanders making 2 points there. One, this is just an idea to figure out what to do with these migrants as they're being processed, which can take over 2 years. So send them to places that say they want them, sanctuary cities. But the other point she made, which I think is the bigger point, is this isn't their solution. This isn't their first ideal solution. What they really want to do is secure the border and reform the immigration laws and reform the asylum laws. That has to be done through Congress. As I said before, I don't think this will ever actually happen. Maybe. I mean, it is President Trump. He's surprised us before, obviously. But the whole point of this was not to actually do this policy, was to make a point that something needs to be done. Highlight the problem on the border, highlight the migrant crisis, but also highlight the hypocrisy of a lot of the Democrats, which is on full display. So if you want to call on that topic, you can, 407-916-5400. A lot of other topics or any topic you want to talk about, because it is Open Mind Monday. And I have to keep an open mind, right, Melissa? Is that the rule?
Yeah, I'm allowed to be closed-minded, but you have to be open-minded.
Because I'm in this chair today?
True. It's the job.
All right. Let's take a call here on the illegal border crossings. Let's go to Ron in Mims. Ron, what's your take for us on Open Mind Monday?
Good morning, yeah. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe a judge has ruled it illegal to return the illegal immigrants to Mexico, and whereas they can be returned to Canada. Well, the solution seems obvious then. Just return them to Canada. Issue each one a pair of long johns, a pair of snowshoes, and tell them we'll see them come spring thaw. You know.
For one, what's really funny about that is, other than the long johns, is Canada actually has much stricter immigration laws than we do. So we started trying to send them up there; they would not be happy.
Yeah, I think that's a good solution. Whenever I hear Mr. Spector's name, I think of Phil Spector.
Phil Spector.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Who's Phil Spector?
No.
The 50s guy. The 50s music guy.
Music guy. Come on.
Oh, okay. Man, I just really aged myself.
It's okay.
Young guys behind the radio don't know who Phil Spector is. The one thing I did want to point out that the caller said is there was a judge who said it was illegal for to keep them in Mexico while they're pursuing their asylum. But they're breaking news as of yesterday. Another judge, the Ninth Circuit, actually put a stay on that injunction. So for now, they can still send them to Mexico as they're waiting their asylum claim. So it's just a temporary stay. The case still has to be made to the Ninth Circuit, which isn't usually friendly to Trump. No. But it was an interesting turn of events from a surprising place. So right now, because of that stay on the injunction, he can keep up that policy of sending them back to Mexico. Let's take another call here. Let's go to Chuck in Minnesota. Chuck, what's your take for Open Mind Monday?
I want to talk to a different subject, and I wanted to do this several weeks ago. However, Bernie Sanders today is going to announce Medicare for all. But Medicare for all, he thinks, is a government insurance program that's going to work. But what happens when the doctors and hospitals refuse to accept government insurance? Because right now, the Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Humana, all pay 15 to 20% more on a procedure than Medicare. We've had surgeons from Tampa move to Minnesota. And I said, why did you move up here? And he said, because I can't make enough money. There's so many people on Medicare, I can't keep the lights on. This is a problem that people don't realize. We, as retired people, right now are paying a premium of, my wife and I, at $271 a month. That's our Medicare premium. The deductible is $185, so you have to pay that up front. People don't realize how Medicare works, and Medicare works on how much you make. Do you realize that if you make over $750,000, you and your wife would pay $921 a month Medicare premium? It's based on your income, and people don't realize that. 99 and 44/100% of your retired people that are listening right now know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Chuck, I mean, you make a great point, and this has been a problem with Medicare, where doctors are basically refusing to see them because they're not getting reimbursed at the rate of their procedures. They're not getting reimbursed for everything. So what they do, by the way, a lot of these hospitals and doctors, is they charge everyone else more to make up for the Medicare patients. But you talked about, what's going to happen if we have Medicare for all and that continues. Well, I'll tell you what happens. I think a part of the law will force the doctors will take them anyway. That'll be a part of the law. It will force the doctors to accept everyone because it'll all be under a government system.
They try to tell us that the ER can't turn you away, and I've seen it happen. So,
Well, but Bernie Sanders wants to make it a complete government overhaul where you're basically working for the government, and what he says is going to happen, so that's eventually going to lead to forcing the doctors to take him, and then that eventually will lead to rationing.
Hey, how do you look in all gray? Just want to know, because at some point we're all going to be in the same drab colors and march in the lockstep. Just handing over everything we do, waiting in bread lines.
It's an okay color on me. I'm not going to lie. All right, we have open lines for you, so you can call on that topic or the topic of your choice. 407-916-5400. We'll get to the text line next as well on Orlando's news, weather, and traffic in 2 minutes. This is Good Morning Orlando. So it is Open Mind Monday, and that means we're taking your calls and your texts on any topic. Now, if you want to call in, bunch of things we've been talking about, you can call us at 407-916-5400, and I promise Melissa will be nice to you.
Oh, come on.
She's not always nice to me or nice to Alan, but she's going to be nice to the callers.
You know, the word is, if I'm not picking on you, I don't care about you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so there you have it. Okay, feel the love. Do you feel the love now?
That's always been my excuse too.
So, actually, we got a bunch of text messages coming in. Melissa, why don't you read some of those?
Okay. Here's one that says, I agree with the president's decision. I believe that this is just a political scheme to enable more voter fraud after numbers of illegals have been spread nationwide. It seems a ploy to increase Democratic voters, most likely in states that are currently red.
All right. Yeah.
Another one says, Open Mind Monday about Trump's tweet. Let us never forget after the attack that Mr. Trump bragged about how he now had the tallest building in New York.
Yeah, I heard that referenced over the weekend, but I have not actually heard the audio
don't recall,
of that.
But it may have happened, but I don't think, he's insensitive, yes, but. Medicare for all would also lead to less people aspiring to be doctors, and that is added to the problem.
Yeah, talking about Medicare for all. So lots of different topics that we have addressed already. One person did text in, too, talking about Trump wanting to send the migrants to sanctuary cities. Says, if you like your illegal alien, you can keep your illegal alien. So there you go.
And somebody actually texted in a critique of my news writing.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
I saw that. I couldn't believe he had the gall to criticize your news writing.
I have to admit he or she makes a good point when they say, hey, Alan, the man in the hookah lounge wasn't hurt after being shot. The man was hurt when he was shot. Now, that's the type of thing I usually correct other people about.
Right, and
But,
someone had to correct you on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm glad people are listening carefully.
And people corrected me, too. The ER one says cannot turn you away if it's an emergency. Again, what I was referring to is the ER being used as your general doctor. And
Right.
yes, they will. If they don't turn you away, they will make you sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait. So anyway, yeah. The ER is not the solution for Medicare.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that was the most common sense thing you've ever said.
Yay,
The ER is
thank
not the
you.
solution for Medicare. This is
you.
exactly right. So we are going to get to the text line. A bunch of texters weighing in on what the big controversy was over the weekend. And, of course, it has to do, once again, with President Trump's Twitter account, his Twitter account. He put out the video, which we played in the last segment, the audio from it, where it has Ilhan Omar basically, a lot of people think it was downplaying the 9/11 attacks. Now, she faced criticism from Republicans first, like Dan Crenshaw was really the one who put this out there to begin with and made it go viral. And then, of course, President Trump's tweet. But I noticed over the weekend, especially when I was watching the Sunday shows, that a lot of Democrats are pretty uncomfortable with what she said as well. Now they're saying it was just insensitive and she should have spoke better. And they were praising the rest of her speech, but they were pretty uncomfortable just completely defending her, as they have been in the past with some of her comments that were deemed to be anti-Semitic. But there was two different ways that the Congress or that Democrats have reacted to what Trump did. They played two different cards. One, I've noticed, is that they say he's been inciting violence by putting out this tweet. In fact, I have some audio here. Melissa, if you can get the Beto O'Rourke over the weekend basically said that at one of his campaign stops, is what he said.
This is an incitement to violence against Congresswoman Omar, against our fellow Americans who happen to be Muslim.
All right, so he's saying, and a lot of other people said this as well, AOC said it, Elizabeth Warren said it, that Trump was inciting violence. I think this is a dangerous road we go down where you criticize another public figure and immediately you say, well, their speech has to be silenced because that could be inciting violence. You could say it's insensitive. You could say it was unpresidential. But to say it's inciting violence against someone, I think is going a little too far. I know Ilhan Omar has had death threats, but I doubt they pale in comparison to the amount of death threats that President Trump or Mike Pence has or many other people, public figures, have had. Death threats are always bad, but you can't just say a criticism incites violence because then we're just going to be afraid to speak on anything. It's just an attempt to silence people, it seems like. That was one card that was being played by the left. The other one, though, has to do with something Andrew Gillum said. He was on CNN State of the Union. He is now a CNN contributor, was the mayor of Tallahassee, was almost very, very close to being our next governor by a slim margin. He played a different card when it came to criticizing Trump's tweet on Ilhan Omar. This is what he said.
I find the president's comments to be deplorable, and I think really beneath the office of the presidency. And obviously, Ilhan has become a little bit of an easy target for this White House, for this administration. But I think his attack is beyond Congresswoman Omar. This is about the fact that she looks a certain way. She is a woman of color. She happens to be of a Muslim faith. The president is setting, in my opinion, the groundwork for the kind of campaign he wants to run, which is to turn Americans against Americans, to turn brown and black people against his base. I find it extremely overreaching in many regards, and I think he underestimates his supporters out there, because I think there are a lot of people who find this extremely deplorable, especially those who remember well the heartache that many of us experienced watching those towers come down.
So some Democrats had said he was inciting violence, but others, like Andrew Gillum, said it was racist, that the only reason he criticized Ilhan Omar the way he did is because, well, she has a different skin color. Now, this is something Andrew Gillum would do all the time against Ron DeSantis during that campaign, claim that he was inciting racism in that campaign as well. So you have two cards being played, the inciting violence, which is really, I don't like that when we start trying to silence speech and debate by saying, oh, that speech incites violence, but also playing the race card once again. I don't think Trump would have just said, oh, well, that if, let's say Ilhan Omar was white, I don't think Trump would have said, oh, well, then I won't put out this tweet because that person's white. I seriously doubt that. It usually doesn't stop him from criticizing someone if they make points like Ilhan Omar made. Now, we're getting a bunch of texts into this already. Melissa Fox, why don't you read some of the text for us?
Okay, we've got the first one out of the gate. Minnesota Democrat wants to change our culture. Why doesn't she fight in her own country? She's anti-American, period.
Okay, she is an American citizen, so she is an American. This is her country. So I don't know if I agree with everything, but that being said, what she said was pretty insensitive. Go ahead.
Another
what's more?
texter responded by saying, I don't recall any Democrat calling for extra protection when President Trump, when a comedian showed a beheaded Trump. Remembering Kathy Griffin?
Oh, yeah. Well, not only that, but Ilhan Omar once said that Trump is not even human.
That's right.
So, I mean, you want to talk about, degrading someone personally. That's what Ilhan Omar said. Any other text you want to read?
Sure. What's her name? Ilhan?
Ilhan.
Okay.
Ilhan.
Her. Should be proud of her disgusting statement and stand by it. Trump has freedom of speech too, Congresswoman. Sorry, you don't speak in a vacuum in America.
All right, so you want to text or call on this, you can call 407-916-5400. You can also text to 23680 where standard message and data rates play. By the way, we're still taking calls on any topic as well for Open Mind Monday. We'll have that in Orlando's news, weather, and traffic in 2 minutes. This is Good Morning Orlando.
Does he have a suggested name? Perhaps Trump Airways?
Maybe. In a way, though, he does actually bring up a good point.
Oh, he's right about that, sure.
Well, how does Boeing come back from this?
Exactly like he said. They tool it up, they rebrand it, they rename it, and booyah.
Because even after the so-called software fix, you think people are going to be comfortable getting on the plane after that?
I mean,
maybe.
Mind.
I'm never comfortable getting on a plane to begin with.
So you're not the authority on this issue.
I grew up on puddle jumpers, so if I can get on those ratty things, I can get on anything.
Maybe once they have the software fix and it's all fine and good, people won't care that it's the same plane. I don't know. I just wonder. I just wonder if maybe they should rebrand.
Well, the questions come in because we've learned that Boeing was responsible for conducting its own inspections.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a lot of different questions that come in on how all of this happened in the first place.
Yeah, not just the fix, but there's the whole process needs to be examined.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's take a call here real quick. Let's go to Walt in Winter Springs. Walt, what's your take for Open Mind Monday?
Well, I loved Trump's tweet. He's right on, reminding people of what happened in 9/11. And Rashid Ilhan Omar, by the way, made a erroneous statement to the public. She said that CARE was a result of 9/11
and that was wrong.
Defend themselves, which was wrong. CARE was started in 1995, and both Ilhan Omar and Tlaib Rashid, both within the last couple of weeks, were speakers at CARE meetings. And CARE is associated with Hamas, and Hamas is a terrorist organization. I mean,
they're associated with the Muslim Brotherhood.
Absolutely.
In the past, yeah.
Absolutely. Her conduct is unacceptable, and the Democrats need to stand up to her, and quite frankly, she should be removed from Congress.
All right, I appreciate your call. I got to tell you, even some of the Democrat leadership are pretty uncomfortable with her and AOC and Rashida Tlaib. I mean, Nancy Pelosi has been kind of trying to walk the line a little
distance
bit
herself
with, kind of distance, like defend her, but also kind of distance herself a little bit, saying, they're not that important. It's been kind of interesting to watch. So the other big news over the weekend, of course, was the Masters. Tiger Woods.
Yeah, and we got a tweet earlier this morning. I like to read tweets that are about me, which the text said that they agreed with me that they had stayed and watched the entire final round of the Masters yesterday. The interesting thing was it was rather easy to do because it came on right at 9 in the morning. They moved it up because of the weather situation, and so it ran from like 9 to 2:30. And it was such a compelling story in many ways because of Tiger Woods and also because of the number of people who were in the running to win that thing yesterday.
Now, do you think that you would have watched it if it weren't for Tiger Woods? Like, if Tiger Woods was not in it at all, would you have watched it?
I would not have.
Would you have caught it had they not moved up the broadcast?
Probably not.
See, yeah,
I might
think
have,
they lucked out.
I might have thought, okay, let me check it out. Like 5 or 6 o'clock. Right as it's getting toward the end.
Right, but to watch the whole thing like that, I think just moving the time up because of the inclement weather that was expected really did a big thing. And then, like you said, all those guys were all vying for
and then
number
Tiger
one.
Woods ended up being the one who won, and he was really close. I'm curious to see what the ratings are going to be like, because I know there's got to be tons of people in this country just like you, Alan, that were like, I have to watch this, that maybe weren't really that interested before.
Tiger transcends golf. Even people who don't know golf know Tiger Woods.
All right, well,
history was made yesterday.
That's the end of the show. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.